CPS budget crisis that never seems to get any better, and without a state budget, Juan, who's taking the blame for this situation?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
If you ask CPS officials, though, they're placing the blame squarely on the governor's office, squarely on Governor Rauner, and on state lawmakers for not coming up with a solution yet to help the district with its financial crisis, either by altering the school formula or any number of other issues that they're looking at right now. Now, obviously, the governor, though, is looking squarely back at City Hall and CPS, saying that, they're the ones who have to take care of this issue, and that, bankruptcy or some other massive intervention is going to be what's necessary to solve the problem.
Which makes a lot of people wonder if the mayor and the governor are still friends. Lisa, you deal with political crisis all the time. Who's going to get the blame, regardless of who they're blaming each other, but who is the public holding responsible?
It's an interesting question, Robin, because you ask if they're friends anymore. I don't think they've been friends since they got elected and this all started happening. Cordial, but I wouldn't call it friends. But you have to look at this everything. Why is everyone else in the state going to potentially suffer for a long-rooted problem? This is not yesterday's problem. This does not happen a week ago. This has been brewing for 10, 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at 8.5% interest rate that they're borrowing money. I mean, you just said that was like payday loan rate type of thing. But who's suffering in all this? The children.
Right. So you do policy research, so personalities taken out of it. What's the fact?
I think in aggregate, the Rauner administration is hell-bent on trying to privatize as much as state government as possible. And unfortunately, Chicago Public Schools and other services and programs that benefit the marginalized end up being casualties.
You say benefit the marginalized because let's be clear about who the demographic is in Chicago Public Schools.
Black and brown children who, in many cases, come from low-income neighborhoods.
And Jersa, you made a point that, Lisa Trustman, that if everyone had to go to a public school, it'd be a different, they'd probably all be excellent.
Well, and also, how about some skin in the game, too? I understand choice and religious or whatever personal choice it is to send your child to either a private or public school. But imagine if the teachers and the administrators who work for CPS actually had their own children going to CPS. What type of a reinvestment would that be? What type of a different approach would that be?
That's the teachers and administrators. I think the question might be if the lawmakers, the mayor and the governor had their own children in Chicago. But there are some excellent Chicago public schools. What do these cuts, however, mean for that standard? They said no more than one teacher taken from any given school, but 2 from Whitney Young High School, arguably the top high school in the city. When are we going to start seeing the effects of this? 10 years down the line, will we have no educated workforce?
It's possible. I mean, I want to say, though, that these cuts were massive, $85 million this fiscal year. The net effect for district-operated schools is closer to $26 million, and what you saw was that a lot of principals across the district got really creative when it came to finding money, either out of supply budgets or vacant positions or other accounts that they have at their disposal to kind of absorb as many of the cuts as possible. So that's why you saw just about 17 teachers actually impacted by this decision. But if you ask the union, for example, they would say that $26 million in cuts is still, even though it doesn't translate to jobs right away, it still translates to, supply budgets that you can't take out.
And
quality. Paper budgets. And, does that eventually have an effect on quality? It certainly could. One thing that is certainly noticeable, though, is that you talk about how there are a lot of good schools out there. There are a lot of good administrators and a lot of good teams and a lot of good parent communities out there. And you walk into some of these buildings, and I've got to say, despite all the chaos and all the noise that's happening around them, there are still people who are coming to work every single day and doing their best to give the best possible education they can to these people. There's a lot of resilient people out there who are getting it done.
That said, I've talked to a lot of CPS professionals this year who say they're looking for a new career. In your research, Kanu, what are you seeing as the impact on the quality of education, which has been questionable for the last 30 years? What is the impact these are our kids?
The impact is horrendous. Ultimately, you have a situation where for a long time there's a legacy of CPS not necessarily getting the resources.
Or being discriminatory in the resources.
Being discriminatory in the resources, therefore not receiving the necessary resources to stay afloat. And we're talking about our children, 400,000 black and brown children predominantly throughout CPS who aren't getting what their families pay taxes for. And this plays a huge role in maintaining talent in the city of Chicago and nurturing talent in the city of Chicago. There's a lot of rhetoric in terms of yap, if you will, in terms of what they should do and what they want to do. But when you, what are you willing to go to the wall for?
All right, quick question for you all. Will there be a teacher strike?
My money's on no right now, but
All right.
it's hard to say. The end of the story is yet to come. It's going to be a while.
Melissa?
Absolutely.
There will be?
Yes.
What do you think? You think there will be as well? Well, we're hearing that April 1st may not be a hard deadline because the CPS, which has said they're going to take their 7% contribution to pensions back, is not saying when exactly they're going to do that.